This is the third in the series on the left-wing extremism and how we've been able to overcome the challenges. Now, there can be no two opinions that the substantial credit for the victory over the left-wing extremists must go to the brave hearts of the Central Armed Police Forces and the state police forces, and many of them have lost their lives in the last 2 decades. But a fair share of credit will also go to civil servants who translated laws and schemes into trust building interventions on the ground. And therefore, this column today will talk about three very important policy interventions. The first of these is the Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act, PESA, the Forest Rights Act, and the uh, One Dhan Yojana scheme, which was implemented by TRIFED. Now, you could have a scheme without an implementing arm, because I just wanted to share with you that although the West Bengal Land Reforms Act had been enacted by the Congress regime, the effective uh, Barga rights were given in the first left front regime. So it is not just what is enacted, it is also how it is implemented, which makes all the difference. And in today's series, I'll first talk about B.D. Sharma, who had been the collector of Bastar in the mid 60s, early 70s, and he was known as a very activist collector, and he was very keen that the tribal has to be placed in the forefront of development, that he is responsible and he is capable of taking care of himself. Now, this is a reversal in many ways of the Vader Elwin, Hunter, and Gregson and Russell Stand, who felt that the tribal is so vulnerable that he has to be protected. So, because of that, what happened was that, under the 1935 Government of India Act, many areas which were dominated by tribes were put under the excluded or the partially excluded areas, which then became the fifth schedule and the sixth schedule areas. In fact, here it was felt that the elected governments may not work, and these were considered to be the special responsibilities of the union government, who would act through the governor of the state. And therefore, when the 73rd, 74th Amendment was introduced for the rest of the country, the fifth and the sixth schedule areas were excluded because it was felt that the tribals are not capable enough of handling their own affairs. Now, this is where B.T. Sharma and many others felt that this is wrong. If the benefits of the 73rd Amendment, that is decentralization to the to the third tier, has happened in the rest of the country, it should also happen for the scheduled areas, and that is how PESA was introduced in 1996. Though the notification of rules took some time longer, but at least this beginning of empowerment for the tribals that started. But then you see, as was pointed out in a research paper by Professor Colonel Shashank Rajan for the IDSA, Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis, that PESA by itself, without giving economic rights, that is, there is the political right which you get under the PESA, but what good is that political right if there is no economic empowerment? If you don't have access to land, if you don't have access to forest produce, what does your right to be a member of the Gram Panchayat entail? In fact, that is precisely the point which Dr. Ambedkar was also making. Today, he said when the constitution is being enacted that we all have equal political rights, but how about social rights? How about economic rights? So that is where, when Leap Singh Puria was made the chairman of a committee to review the functioning of the PESA, he suggested that there should also be the Forest Rights Act, and that is how the landmark, and I'll give you the full title, it is Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act 2006. This thing is a gap of about a decade. But this act sought to correct the historical imbalances by recognizing the rights of forest dwelling communities by granting them ownership and also management rights. Both ownership rights and management rights for those who are living in and around the forest, till the cutoff date of December 13, 2005, and also promoted to joint forest management. So here, the point was that the FRA also recognized the centrality of the Panchayat, of the Gram Sabha, in the implementation of these things. So it was no longer a top-down approach; it was a bottom-up. And the most successful turnaround has been in Gadchiroli in Maharashtra, which was the hotbed of Naxalism at some point of time. Now, how did the Gadchiroli turnaround take place? And for this, we have to give credit to a very to a very committed forest service officer by the name of Sri Bhagwan. Now, what Sri Bhagwan did was to, first of all, create that element of trust, because legalities apart, the most important thing is, are you visiting the forest areas? Are you talking? Are you, as happened in the case of Dantewada, are you in conversation? Are you in communication? And therefore, they started by first looking at the community rights, at local governance, livelihood issues, and the place where it started was the Menda Lekha village. And in about 2009, the FRA recognized the pre-existing rights, irrespective of the forest class, whether it is reserved or protected or village forest, and it granted control to the communities, first over the minor forest produce, and in the case of Maharashtra, the NFP, that is the minor forest produce, included bamboo and tendu leaf, and also the both bamboo and tendu leaf are very important commercial crops in that area. And therefore, what has happened is that in Gadchiroli, forest rights have been extended to over 5,100 square kilometer of the 9,000 odd square kilometers of the district forest land, which is phenomenal, which is the best in the country so far. And the more important thing which I want to highlight is the bipartisan approach to the Gadchiroli experiment, because it was initiated at a time when the Chief Minister was Prithviraj Chavan and the Union Environment Minister was Jairam Ramesh. We were talking about the earlier regime. And now it has been continued by Mr. Devendra Fadnavis. And the Maharashtra Governor's Office has also been playing a very active role. So when intervention transcends, or when it crosses, when it continues, even when chief ministers and political ideologies are different, that is the success of the of the experiment. And now, no longer Gadchiroli is no longer an experiment; it's a model to be replicated elsewhere. And last year, a professor from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Kitanjoy Sahu, wrote that 1,109 CFR registered recognized villages in Gadchiroli have exercised these rights, and on an average, the families are now earning up to 7,000 per month from forest sources. And this is just a supplementary income. There are other incomes as well, but this is the base income which is happening. And more than that, there is ownership, there is democratic participation, which is decentralized, transparent, and also protective of the forest cover. That is the most important aspect. Now, one good thing which the government of Maharashtra has done is to post some very dynamic IAS and IPS officers in the field in tribal belt, especially in Gadchiroli. And I'll give you some instances of how these officers have made a major change. We have the sub-divisional magistrate by the name of Manoj Jindal, who converted the underutilized buildings into training centers for the most vulnerable tribal groups. Technically, they're called the particularly vulnerable tribal groups in the Kamragar region. And I've personally attended a presentation by Mitali Sethi, who is a 2017 batch officer, and she'd come for a presentation when I was the director at the academy. And that was about a community focused approach which bridged the gap between policy and rural needs. It was an outstanding district assignment which he had done. Then we had a very young officer, Shubham Gupta, who's used artificial intelligence to monitor and improve the nutrition amongst tribal students, and has introduced bike ambulances for access to hospitals from the very remote area. Therefore, this is the kind of interventions which the next generation can make, and these are people who are more tech savvy. And interestingly, we've had some very good IPS officers also in this district, and they've done something which is very unique. For example, we have Nilotpal, IPS officer, who's converted. I'm not converted. He's added libraries to police station. Now, you can't convert a police station into a library, but you can certainly add a library and a reading room to a police station, which makes it friendlier, which makes more people want to come to the police station, uh, not just for reporting crime, but also for conversation. In fact, it is this ability to converse, this ability to talk, this ability to play football, all these things. That is what creates a good, proper ambience for administration. Uh, we have another colleague of his, Ankit Goel, who set up Police Dwar Ek Khidki, a single window agency. So, where whatever the issues are, whatever the concerns are, and this has been extended to all the Naxal affected areas, and it creates awareness about various government schemes. So, what happens is that these interventions, they create legitimacy on the ground, and this prepares the groundwork for a successful intervention, because government delivery of services and law and order must go together. And now I'll share with you the wonderful work done by TRIFED. TRIFED, we have, but he's superannuated like me, Praveer Krishna, a dynamic officer of the 1987 batch, and he set up TRIFED. At some point of time, TRIFED was competing with Fab India or Cottons or any other big brand in the country. It still is. And so what has TRIFED done? TRIFED has been able to get tribal produce from across the country into modern stores, into modern retail format, and also the e-commerce platform. And so, in one word, if you ask me what has Praveer been able to do, he has converted MG Narega or G Ramji wage laborers into independent entrepreneurs. They are now in control of their incomes. They are startups, and he has leveraged the Pradhan Mantri Van Dhan Yojana to create a vast network of Adivasi startups in the tribal belt. And therefore, what happens is that here the tribals can come together, they pool their resources, and they collect all the minor forest produce. It could be honey, it could be coffee, it could be it could be foxnuts, it could be hill grass, it could be brooms, it could be fruit juices, it could be turmeric, it could be tamarind. So you collect all this produce, grade it, package it, and market it. And this has actually provided a market to over 50 lakh tribal gatherers and primary producers, thereby bringing about a sea change in their economy. And as the last report indicated, that over 2,000 crores was being reinvested annually into the tribal economy by the interventions which TRIFED was able to make, whether it was through the Imli Abhiyan, whether it was through better processing of honey, giving them honey boxes, and all these things. So do take time off to visit the TRIFED store and pick up the produce which has been generated from the tribal communities of this country. This is the third and the penultimate part of my discussion with you. Next week we'll be discussing SAMADHAN. SAMADHAN is the acronym for an eight-pronged strategy which was adopted by the MHA to hammer the last nail in the coffin of Naxalism. But for that, let's wait till next week. Thank you.